Hey, back in the Score studio this week, rocking the DePaul colors today for our preview of Bears-Rams this week. There's four things that I'm looking for. I got the handy-dandy statistics here from the NFL to go through. Just a couple of nuggets with statistics. The run game, and I mean this on both sides. Steven Jackson has been questionable all week. He hasn't practiced. He's had a groin issue. There's also been some talk that Jeff Fisher wasn't happy with his desire in the game last week. Watch out for Daryl Richardson. He's the backup. He came in that game and rushed for 83 yards. And when I asked Bears players about it this week, he said the thing that jumps off the tape on Richardson is how fast he is. So that's a challenge considering that the Bears didn't do very well against the run a week and a half ago against Green Bay, and Cedric Benson racked up a ton of yards. So watch out for Richardson if Jackson doesn't get the start, and if he does get the start, he's a really nice change of pace. On the Bears side, Michael Bush will get the opportunity to carry the rock because Matt Forte is out with his ankle sprain. I like Bush. I think that he is a fantastic complement to Matt Forte. He's always wanted to be a lead dog. This gives him another opportunity to do that. He did a lot of that when Run DMC was hurt out in Oakland. Can they do a lot of the same stuff that they do with Matt Forte? Yes, but I don't think that Michael Bush gives you the big play potential that Matt Forte does. I think they'll set him up, and he'll do well running in between the tackles, and definitely when he gets down into the red zone. Number 2 on my list, watching the Rams game tape. What they did against Washington was they went over the middle a ton. Danny Amendola had 15 catches, which was a franchise record. But they went over the middle. They are going to attack Brian Urlacher. And how he handles being attacked, they're going to throw a lot of stuff underneath and try to get some run after the catch. They don't really have a ton of outside threats. So let's see with the 10 days off that Brian has had, if his knee responded. He said this week that he feels fine, that he feels as good as he's probably going to get with all the time that he had off between games. Let's see if he's a little less mechanical, and even he's kind of admitted that, less mechanical in this game than he was against Green Bay. And for the Bears, they're going to need to establish something too. If they can get some screens going and maybe some of the stuff over the middle, it might open things up outside for Brandon Marshall, but we'll talk about him in a little bit. I also look at the addition of Shiloh Rochelle to the offensive line at guard, them kicking out Chris Spencer and replacing him with Rochelle. They've got to do a better job of protecting the quarterback. It's as simple as that. A lot of blame goes to Jamarcus Webb, and it should. He hasn't been very good. But there were also some breakdowns with protection from the running backs and the tight ends, and obviously they weren't happy with the first 2 games that Chris Spencer has played. So if you get a better guard next to you, do you turn out to be a better player? We'll see. But if they can't protect Jay Cutler, it's going to make things very difficult. And the Rams defense has a couple of guys that can get off the end and get some pressure. So this is going to be another challenge. They also give up a lot of big plays, and they gave up big plays last week. So the big plays are going to be out there. And it might be up to Brandon Marshall, which is number 4 on my list. How do you handle Cortland Finnegan, the troublemaking cornerback for the Rams? He is one of those guys that loves to get under a player's skin, that loves to draw the flag on another player because he's acting up. He and Brandon Marshall don't get along. They've never gotten along. So this is another entry into that rivalry between these two guys. Can Brandon Marshall keep his head and make some plays down the field? And if the Bears see some more two-man looks this week, which they're bound to see because it's a copycat league, do they handle things better? They've got to find a way to get Brandon Marshall the ball. If that means flipping him around, lining him up in the slot a bit more, or other guys taking pressure off of him because they've got one-on-one matchups that they got to win, they've got to do it, or else the offense isn't going to work. Alshon Jeffrey was a non-factor in last week's game against Green Bay. That has to change. When guys have opportunities to make plays, Devin Hester had a drop in last week's game. Earl Bennett had a couple of surprising bad plays in last week's game. That has to change. It's all got to click. And it's got to click quick because the rest of this schedule is not an easy one. And this is one of those games where you're uncomfortable trying to make a pick going into it because the Rams are just good enough to beat you if you make mistakes and beat yourself. And the Bears might do that if they haven't fixed their protection issues. Hopefully next week on The Score, we're talking about the Bears coming off a win. But I do think that this game is going to be tough. We'll see what they have in store for them. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll have the 24 blog up 24 hours after the game is done.